Hello, welcome to my presentation on making Assassin's Creed Nexus VR accessible. So first, I'd like to show you a video of the game.
This is the Abstergo Cloud. It's an archive of memories stretching back through time. So I want you to visit these memories and bring back the information I need.
Wait, you're Connor Kenway.
Good thing for you that I am here, then.
Today, you are to see a traitor to the crown, hanged by the neck until dead. For his crime, the penalty is death.
Not bad for your first time in the Animus.
What brings you to Zillos?
I'm in search of a treasure. The story goes that if the statues in the Temple of Apollo match one another, the path to the bow of Odysseus will be revealed.
You want me to find this bow for you?
You wouldn't refuse an old friend.
Where do I start?
Day on the canals with my good friend Ezio. What could be better?
Flatter me as always, Antonio.
Rizzo is awaiting on delivery of a jewel-encrusted Carnevale mask. Trail his capo. Humiliate him publicly.
In the end, the Templars will succeed. What the hell? The Hunter Protocol has been activated.
My name is Olivier Palmieri. I'm a game director at Ubisoft Montreal, and I've been working at Ubisoft since 1998. I had the chance to work on many IPs we have at Ubisoft, from platformers such as Rayman, to military shooters such as Ghost Recon, and more recently on Assassin's Creed Nexus VR. So I will talk today about our challenge on recreating Assassin's Creed in VR, the accessibility that we worked on to make the game more appealing and playable by everyone, and a few elements on VR comfort. So making the game not having nausea for players to make it more accessible. So the first part is about recreating Assassin's Creed in VR. And first I'd like to start with two videos of players with iconic moves we have in Assassin's Creed and how they appear in Nexus VR. So the first one is the Hidden Blade.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I've always wanted to do that.
And the second one is the iconic Leap of Faith.
See you soon, brother.
See you soon, brother. That was dope. Wow.
So that was some of the things that players wanted to see in a VR version of Assassin's Creed, and that we worked on to make it happen and appear in VR. So one of the challenges, among others, was to transform a game that is originally third-person camera in third-person view. So you have the camera seeing the full character to a first-person view where you are the assassin. You combat seeing your hands first hand, you climb on buildings, you do the stealth yourself. So it's really a new perspective, a new view on the brand. Also, coming from gamepad controls for Assassin's Creed, now we played with motion controls. So you move your hands around in the world, and it's a new way to fight with a sword, to aim and shoot with a bow, to climb, to do the air assassinations, and so on. So accessibility for Ubisoft, it's to allow all players to enjoy the games without frictions, without being frustrated. So it's for anyone that could need or want mechanics and the game to accommodate to their motor or visual or hearing or cognitive needs, but it's also for everyone and for the game to be enjoyable for all players. For accessibility, we try to have 4 pillars to target 4 categories. So the first one is motor skills, so to try to help with disabilities regarding motor skills. The second one is visual. Third one is hearing, auditory, and the last one is cognitive. So I will show you a few examples of some of the features we developed. Not all the features, but some of the features we developed for the game. So in terms of motor, in VR, usually when you have inventory, when you have weapons in those kind of games, sometimes you need to reach out over your shoulder to grab some equipment. So in our case, in Nexus, it was a crossbow or a bow that you can reach over your shoulder and virtually grab. But that might be a challenge for some people. So we developed an interface, a UI that shows in front of you as a player, and that you then can pick up all elements from your inventory.
A gameplay demo shows him selecting a bomb from his inventory and tossing it.
So this is taken from the virtual body, and this is the interface where you can pick up your knives and bow and arrow and smoke bombs. Another feature we developed, and that was quite some challenge during work from home for everyone, it's stabilizing the hands for some people that might have shaky hands. So we tweaked a lot and tried to find the best solutions with different settings that you can play with and change to allow to comfortably aim in the game, or manipulate your sword, or climb buildings with your hands stabilized in game. And we have been very happy to see the feedback from the players. And here is one we received for which the team was really happy, and that some players now have been able to play comfortably and the game and enjoy the game with that kind of feature. So this is like a simulation of a hand that is shaking, where aiming and targeting to an enemy is difficult. And when you activate the accessibility feature with different settings, then it becomes possible to aim and shoot enemies. And as I said, it also works with many features that we have in the game, so climbing, stealth, combat, etc. Seated mode allows you to play the game seated, so the full game, the entire game is playable. You can fight, climb, stealth, do air assassinations. All those things can be played standing up and moving around in VR, but also again for everyone. you can play the game seated. So either you might need to be seated to play VR, or you just want to play seated. You're more comfortable this way, or whatever the reason. And so the game is we made sure that the game is fully playable, and also there's particular tricks such as for grabbing elements around on the floor and to reach some surfaces. We have tweaked the distances and values and many things to make the game the same, either you are seated or standing. Auto-parkour is another motor skill accessibility feature where the idea was for players maybe that might have difficulties to hold buttons for a long time. So in the game, by default, you have to move forward and hold the A button to parkour. But with auto parkour, you actually just have to click once the joystick when the feature is activated, and then your character is going to sprint and jump and mental on platforms and parkour automatically. So in the video, I'm trying to showcase that just with a stick click, and I'm showing the empty hands on screen to show that I'm not pressing buttons or moving joysticks anymore. There's also some visualization on the jumps, such as you see, to tell players if they are going to do a jump to fit, if they're going to mental to climb buildings. So this is a hand icon to show in advance that you're going to grab. So here, even climbing on buildings is done without needing any motion control, any button. You can really rest your arms and your hands along your body, and the parkour is done automatically. For visual accessibility, one of the features we developed is brightness. So there's a slider where you can make the entire game world dimmer or brighter, according to what you want and what you might need.
Footage of the player looking around from a corner is on screen. We see a building and characters passing by. The game is then paused and an accessibility menu opens. The brightness is turned all the way down to the lowest setting. The game unpauses and we can see the difference with the gameplay environment much more dim. The game is then paused again and the brightness is turned up to full brightness. The game unpauses and we're able to see the difference in the world and the lighting.
In terms of visual accessibility and also cognitive, we developed a feature to help with the fear of heights. So we know that in Assassin's Creed, you climb up on buildings, and you might want to do the leap of faith. And as VR is very immersive, you might have the feeling of fear of heights. And so we try to develop a feature called Animus Grid, where you can display lines on the ground or even a box around you, simulating where is your real ground and giving you a point of reference in VR of your real environment. So this is the floor lines, which is also customizable. So you can have thin lines, thick lines, smaller or longer, and you can have a 3D grid all around you, which helps you understand where is your real world and the rest is a virtual one. And also this can help to prevent nausea, so it also helps comfort. For auditory, for hearing, we developed several features. Among them is a mono mode, so I don't know if it's going to convey, but it plays all the sound, all the localized sound in the world, which are 3D in VR. It all plays those sound in mono, the same sound in the right ear and the left ear. So we are sure that no matter if enemies are on the left, on the right, behind you, you can hear everything and you can play the game.
The game is paused and the setting menu's opened. You scroll down to mono audio and turn the setting on. Gameplay resumes.
We also have subtitles and what we call subtitle plus. So not only for narrative moments, but also any voice, any dialogue, any that the living world, like the characters in game, but just passing by, they might cheer you, they might say hello to you, and so all of that is subtitled, so you don't miss anything.
We observed several examples of civilian dialogue where small boxes appear near the characters speaking the lines.
It is my pleasure to be of service. Welcome, welcome. Hey, come take a look.
And finally, a quick presentation on VR comfort. So VR comfort, it's to allow to make the game to prevent nausea. So you don't want you're not nauseated when you play VR, which the intent is also to make the game more accessible to everyone. We want everyone to be able to enjoy the game and play the game for a long time and without feeling any discomfort. So it's something we studied for years, and we actually developed before Nexus at Ubisoft a game called Eagle Flight, which was also based on comfort solutions. And so what we studied for years and the solutions we developed are coming from those findings. So what is happening in VR that might trigger nausea, that might trigger discomfort, is when there is a conflict between what you see and what you feel inside your inner ear. So it's when the brain senses that as a player, what you see, or as a human, I'd say, the motion that you might feel in a car, in a boat, in space, even, is not corresponding to what you see. It might trigger nausea. So in a car, it can be, for example, if you are reading a book and you are in the back seat, and your eyes are telling you that the book is not moving. You read the text, but as the car is moving around, your inner ear tells your brain that it senses some motion, but your visual system, your eyes, say otherwise. So that's conflicting, and that might trigger nausea. On a boat, if you are in your cabin, for example, and you don't see the horizon, you don't see how the motion is happening, it's a bit the same thing. So your room is not really moving, but you sense the boat moving around, and as you don't see the horizon changing, then it triggers the same conflict. And in space, it's actually that because there's no gravity in space stations, for example, then your inner ear cannot really work properly. It needs gravity to understand motion and orientation. So as in space, you are all constantly falling and the gravity is removed, then you see things but you don't sense them, and so it might trigger nausea as well. And from our findings, it's coming from defense mechanism from the brain that might have the feeling when there's a conflict between what you see and what you feel in your inner ear, that it might be a poison that you ingested. So what it's trying to do, it's trying to eject the poison, and that's the nausea feeling that you can have. So it believes that it might be poison, so it's trying to remove the poison as quickly as possible. And so we developed many features. One of them is called dynamic blinders, because we have seen that humans' peripheral vision is the most sensitive to motion. The perception of motion is even stronger on the side of human view, and so by hiding dynamically motion where it's happening, you see here on the right, on the bottom, on the left, on the top, it helps reducing the perception of motion for the visual system, and so it makes the game more comfortable. What we saw also is that when you put a VR headset on, usually you don't see your nose anymore. The VR headset is covering up your nose, and the nose acts in real life as a fixed reference in your field of view. It's something that you see constantly, and as I say that, you might see your nose appear in your field of view blurry. It's just that the brain removes it from the final image that you see, but it's always there. So in VR, you don't see your nose anymore, and by putting a virtual nose, it can actually help to make the game more comfortable. It gives again this fixed reference, and so your brain understands, okay, this is not moving, this is moving. It's closer to reality. We also developed a feature called teleport, which is fairly common in VR games. We tried to, that was a challenge because in Nexus VR, there's a lot of things to climb, to parkour, and we wanted to make sure that the game is the same. Either you move through the world or you use teleport locomotion. And we tried to include many features, such as the ability to use both joysticks on the left and right hand. You can strafe teleport on the side. You can backstep teleport. You can even climb teleport, which we believe is pretty new. So here we teleport to the hand, and so we can do all the climbing without motion, actually. And if you remove the motion, if you remove the perception of motion visually, then it's not in conflict anymore with your inner ear that tells you that you are not moving through the virtual space, because you are teleporting, because you directly come from one location to another. Then your visual system and inner ear system are in agreement, and this is the most comfortable mode, the most comfortable feature that you can have in Nexus. And to make it simple for all those comfort features to be selected, we developed comfort presets. So you just have to, based on some questions, based on a questionnaire that you have at the beginning of the game, if it's the first time your first time in VR, if you are nauseated in cars, for example, if it's happening often to you, and so on, then based on those answers, we recommend a certain preset, and as a player, you just have to select this, and many features will be automatically selected, and with some values, some presets, to make it simple for anyone to be comfortable without knowing anything about those features. And the takeaways, I would say, that we got working on Nexus VR and other VR titles, we work on accessibility to try to remove frustrations, barriers, frictions for everyone. So for some people that might want or need them, but also for anyone that can be happy to use some of those features. We try to have 4 categories for Nexus motor, visual, auditory, and cognitive. And we noticed that some accessibility features can sometimes contribute to make the game actually more comfortable, which makes it also more accessible. So it's a win-win. And in terms of VR comfort, the idea is to try to have a maximum of players enjoy VR and enjoy the game and not being sick. And it's something that not everyone is sensitive, as sensitive in VR or to nausea as others. We are all different. So what we need to do is to playtest as much as possible with as many players as possible to try to develop many features and have a lot of people, as many people as possible, being comfortable. And there's not one feature that makes the game comfortable. It's a combination of features that makes it comfortable for most. So it's when you combine dynamic blinders and virtual nose and so on, and combining all those elements makes the game more comfortable for most. Thank you.